Pa.
Hey,
How's it going?
what's going on? Welcome to Monday.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
oh gosh.
Bad enough Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so, I guess the question is, what did we spend the 6 point whatever million? Do we have that so we can reconcile that to show the governing body?
So that's what we're doing now. So we're in the process of sort of so all of our funding sort of goes into one account, across all of our programs. So, you know, basically control-wise, what should have happened, is basically you got 7 million account, you really only got one. And I think typically what happens is, once again, our funding annually, historically, comes in October, November, so you just, when you spend it from an expenditure standpoint, then you're replacing the money's coming back in, you know, and once again, you know, our money was late. You know, this year the money was late for the first time in forever. We just got our money a week and a half ago. But I think to date, so that's what we're doing now, is reconciling based on those expenditures and putting the money back in. So to date, as of right now, we got 5.5 in the bank. Okay.
So how does that affect anything, Tim? With the 5.5, is that
It's gonna wipe
a
out.
normal practice of us repaying any grants or anything?
I think this is only the second time since I've been here that we've had to give money back to the feds. I don't know.
Yeah, and this one is different. This is not based on anything that's non-compliant.
It's just the grant expired at the end of 22.
It just expired, and they say at some point you're gonna have to pay it back. Cause we got 12. And it was like, whatever the remaining amount is, you're gonna have to send back, but you're gonna send back to us whenever we tell you to send it back.
So we received 12 million for ERA,
You already won this one.
huh, right? And we spent it,
Well, you said ERA 1.
Yes.
What about 2?
2 is one.
2, then how much is that?
That was
Okay. Okay.
There are actually three funding amounts. ERA 1 was 6 million. ERA 1B was the 12, and then ERA 2 was the 7.8.
The 6 and the 7.8, I think, were HUD, and then the 12 was Treasury.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we might eventually need to break this down.
Because
Yeah.
the HUD allocations came in directly like your normal allocations. They were expended, closed out. 12 million came in, that was money that your Department of Community Affairs, DCA, couldn't spend. And this was OD being
Okay.
aggressive.
somebody tell me how we got into this, how we get out of it, and
Yeah.
how.
In a perfect world, the 6.3 million that was left should have been sitting in the bank from 2022 going forward. And I understand that, you know, you draw down and then you replenish that going forward. I looked at the bank account at the end of December, it was like 3.9 million. So I'm a little, that's one of my concerns, is that we spent 2.4 million that should have been sitting there. And I think we talked a little bit about this Friday. I mean, I understand the ebb and flow. And if you have, you know, you draw down every 30 days, you should be able to, everything should be normal. And there shouldn't be any great deficits. I guess I looked at your proposal, Hawthorne, and I'm kind of going, okay, all this is reimbursement from expenses that we've already spent. So how are we gonna operate going forward? Because we're not gonna have any cash to go forward.
Yeah, so
And you had like 600,000 for houses. Now
that's
everything that we had for housing was kind of gonna be a revolving
So to that point, so if you just take a look at the 75% of either one of the concepts, all right, I think that answers your question. So currently today, based on the statement you gave it at the top, it was like 5.1. And then as a reimbursement today, that's like 3/4. So basically, right around 5.5 that's in the account right now. So if we use this as an example and say we'll give back immediately 75%, that'll leave 635,000 in the bank. Okay. If you drop down to the next, I guess, paragraph, basically that means that there's still an O of 1.6 that would be owed to Treasury. Now, to your point, Tim, if you drop down when we start talking about forthcoming, these are contracts that are already on the books. These houses are already built. So these are contracts that are already on the books that are closings that are coming back. Not through Laney Walker, but through our normal home account.
Okay.
So that's revenue. So these closings, all, there's really 4 of them are anticipated to close by April 15th.
So this would be program revenue.
Correct.
Oh.
Yes. So
Okay.
these are 3 Miller Street homes and 1 home Maple Street. I can get you those addresses, those contracts. And then you see down below, these are just reimbursements. So when that one, and that's just, reimbursing what we took out. So as soon as we reimburse with the draw request, now we put it back in, we're gonna send it. We're gonna send it off.
But that's gonna leave us short for operating funds going forward.
So I think based on that method, it leaves you right around 329 in the bank. Now, so
Tim, if you don't agree with it, I need to hear, because I'm telling you, tomorrow, the governing body's probably gonna bring us in.
I mean, we gotta pay it back.
So what I wanna know is where we're gonna get the money. If we had an issue with how this has been done, what I don't want, I'm gonna tell y'all, because I'm very transparent.
Yep.
I don't wanna hear this about it later and saying, well, Hawthorne didn't do the right thing. Or Hawthorne says, I don't wanna hear all that. I just wanna know if it's not the right way to do it, let's figure out how we're gonna have to do it so we can respond to the governing body, because they're gonna be asking about this tomorrow. And Mr. Jackson, unfortunately, you're gonna be the one in there. So you might need to make sure you're comfortable.
So,
on the next page is 65%. I mean, 50%, and I'm not over talking you, Tim. I'm just 50%. I don't agree with that. I just put that on there, Deputy Jackson, on the front page, front right, because that's what you stated on Friday. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think for me, it is to hurriedly, compliantly pay back Treasury. And then I think moving forward, Tim, from your perspective, there's federal funding from a grant perspective that's in our ELOC accounts. Okay. So if moving forward, Augusta doesn't necessarily from an operating standpoint, we have to go back to the old school method for a period of time. So say I'm going to build a house, so I can still enter into a contract that says $200,000 for commission approval to enter into the house. When the contractor gives me the expense, they're requesting the funding, now that unlocks the money that I have, that now I can draw it from HUD.
How current are we with the draws? All your grants.
I think we're current, this is what is outstanding. I think this is that the question you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay, but let me sure that up. But this was based on drawing down, the last time you said it was 3, now we up to, like you indicated, 5.5. So we've been drawing profusely. And based on what should still be outstanding, I think is here. But let me double down on this amount.
Okay. Nothing else, those draws need to be done on a monthly basis. I don't know what they are now, but as quickly as they can be done, they need to be drawn down.
Let me ask you a question. Will the two of you will also be in legal tomorrow to kind of give them some insight into this? Is that correct?
Oh, they probably will call me.
You're gonna have to have the two of you in there.
Okay.
Definitely going.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you what my problem is on this whole thing. One, we knew about this in November. We didn't know. Now, I know Hawthorne said he presented it to us when we did that meeting in February 21st.
February 21st.
Believe me, if you'd have been screaming saying we owe 6.5 million as meticulous as Mr. Jackson is, he would have said something. We had no idea.
Yeah, I'm not putting that on y'all.
I know, I'm just saying, we had no idea.
But I don't want y'all to think that I'm trying to slide now. No, I ain't doing that now. I'm not putting that on y'all.
I know you can shimmy, but I'm just saying.
No,
You know?
no, that's not, and I wasn't saying it like that. I think for me, it was more of a, to that point. So when I saw it in November, keep in mind, we've been waiting for years. I don't know when it's coming. Okay, so in November when I saw it, for me, I'm like, okay, I don't like to just bring up, here's the issue here, I should have made you aware, then the question will be what kind, I don't know, I was waiting, anticipating the actual funding, knowing that the funding comes the last fourth quarter of the year. So I'm waiting, okay, and I guess time got away from me. I want to be able to say, okay, here's the issue and here's a solution. And I think based on, they sent the initial invoice notice in November, then they sent another one in January. And they indicated that the funding would need to be paid, I think, by February 28th. So I was working off of that cycle. I promise you I was. I'm not trying to skim you all, or I wasn't trying to hold it, but I wanted to be sure that I could articulate. One, I knew I could get a grasp on, like the question Tim just asked me, where the revenue was coming from. I didn't know any and all that. Right? It took me a minute to kind of get there, but I do understand. I should have just provided you all a notice. So, I mean, whatever comes with me of that, I have to take it.
So let me back up one step. I think there's two things that stand out to me. One, you were notified in November. I just want to make sure I get my facts straight. They gave you a deadline December 8th, but I wasn't aware that there's actually a 60-day deadline that they gave you. Is that correct? So that moved it to February 28th instead of by December 8th.
It was due on. Sorry.
So the mayor didn't get a letter, a copy of that, Hawthorne?
No, ma'am. Typically, he gets any correspondence I get. He gets.
It said 535 South there.
He asked the CFO anything HUD-wise or anything here. He gets a notification.
Okay, so right here it says, right in the middle of the page, Tim, so you'll see. It says due December 8th. So actually it was due 60 days from the November date, so this wasn't a hard deadline?
Yeah, because they charged penalty and interest it was.
So
Right.
that was the hard deadline
Right.
to avoid penalty and
And
interest.
if you look to the next page,
Okay, all right.
check with, the deadline was December the 8th.
Okay.
And then what they indicated, could go to the next page.
So it went from 6.3 to 6.5 with the penalties and interest.
Right. So the deadline was December the 8th.
Okay.
And then what they indicated, if you pay by that February the 8th,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, as you see there, that's what it
Okay, I see
Which
6%.
one
Up to 32%,
Okay,
but February 10th, oh my
okay.
God.
would be 6%?
So
Okay.
for me, I'm looking like, okay, well, I know the money will hit, and we'll be able to, the same exercise I'm doing now,
Okay.
that I would have done probably a month and a half ago. That was the mindset.
Okay.
I'm just asking, the money that was drawn down from January 1st to today, when should have that been drawn down?
It would have been drawn down probably last year, had my money hit.
Should have been drawn down last
I
year.
would have drawn it down. I'm just using 24 money now, because we just received it in March.
March.
Typically, we receive that money in calendar year, October, November.
Oh, okay. I got you. So you didn't anticipate not receiving this money until almost 6 months later, is that correct?
And then, I mean, the latest probably in my 15, 17, 18 years, maybe it's even right at January.
So what was the cause of that 6 month delay? It was at the federal level, is that what
Yes.
you're saying? Okay, at the federal level,
And
okay.
then you get to January and freezes.
So in order, in terms of, to address the audit issue, if he had had that money in November and October, he would have had the money effective December to pay that money back, theoretically speaking.
Yes, theoretically speaking.
Okay. So that wouldn't have been a sort of a ding in terms of audit having to pay it in the month of December.
Correct.
Okay. you may have to speak on that delay at the federal level.
But because, I mean, I understand the delays in federal funding.
Right.
However, for our auditors, they're gonna look at this and say, you should have had the money on hand.
Right. That's what he's gonna have to speak on what typically happens
Yes.
in October and November.
I mean, I'm prepared to speak on
Yeah.
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 So where did we get the funds from? We said, go back to the ERA 1 and 2, what was those? You said ERA, because Mr. Jackson said something about a breakdown.
Yeah, I think we need to get a breakdown of that
Mhm.
today from
Yeah.
the department.
Um,
And
So
what,
was it ERA 1 and ERA 2?
ERA 1 and ERA 2 were HUD.
Okay.
ERA 1B was Treasury. The ERA 1 and ERA 1B, and help me, Hawthorne, if I get this crossed up, those were cash advances. All of this was advance. It's not, the normal process is a drawdown.
Mm-hmm. So they just gave you money.
They gave us the money and said, go forth and spend.
So ERA 1 was 6 million.
Yes,
ERA 2?
7.8.
And
ERA
ERA 1B.
1B was 12 million.
That's the one, okay.
You couldn't get the ERA 1, you weren't able to get ERA 2 unless you spent
ERA.
ERA 1.
So let me tell you what the big thing is that everybody need to be prepared for tomorrow is where did that money go? That's why we got to get that talk on.
that breakdown.
And why wasn't it spent on ERA needs? Because you have a lot of commissioners keep asking about rental assistance. And if we have funding there, they wanna know why didn't, and whatever we say the reconciliation is gonna have to outweigh.
I mean, the ERA 1B, that was.
If that was the treasury, then that's the one we gotta pay,
You've
right?
already got a breakdown, right?
That's what Nancy did for me.
You just wanted to pay all the expenses.
Oh, you've already got it.
I didn't see that one.
No, Nancy just.
Oh, okay.
Also,
Tim probably gonna look over it.
But
Nancy Heath?
Nancy Heath.
Okay.
And all of this is just, a lot of money was being thrown at us. A lot of money was being thrown at us very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like that ERA, the $12 million portion of it,
Mm-hmm.
had a really short period of time to spend it. You just couldn't spend $12 million.
Yeah, because we got it, that was back when Odie Dawn. We got it in March and we had to spend it by December.
Okay, that's what needs to be mapped out on a breakdown.
Let me tell you something. If I'm a commissioner, I don't care how long, it could have been 2 weeks. You had the money to spend it. I'm gonna be honest, I'm just being devil's advocate.
Yep.
They don't wanna hear that. I'm gonna tell you right now, they're not gonna hear that we had from March to December, whatever you just said.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that as an excuse.
No, I'm just saying they was,
Right.
Mr. Jackson was saying, they're
I
not
ain't
gonna look
walking
at
and giving
that.
no excuses.
They're not gonna look at that. They're gonna
No.
like, why didn't we spend it? And we
Well-
can't say we just had, what, 10 months?
Well, so that ERA 1B money, this was part of the 200 million that the state got, DCA got, and they couldn't spend it. So they started soliciting the different cities and counties to say, hey, can you help us spend some of this money? And that's back when, I know I got the email, back when Odie solicited say, hey, just give the city 12 million. We know that the deadline is December, it doesn't really matter, but we'll just spend as much as we can because we were running out of our ERA money. This was back with your rental assistance program that we were working with
Right.
United Way as well as with the court system.
Well, the reason why I said break it down is because for one, you want to show what you got originally. You spent all of that, correct?
Yes.
The original
ERA
tranche, so you
1
got
and ERA
that.
2, yes, ma'am.
The
Yes,
first two you spent it, right?
most definitely.
And then Odie said, "Oh, we're doing so good. Give us more. And what we can't spend, we can't spend it, but give us the surplus of what you have at the state level." And we took that on, and we tried. I hope you have a process where you show that you try to spend that additional surplus money that we got from the state. Is that correct?
So we spent 6 million of it and still had that 6 million left. The question gonna become is, again, it's gonna roll back, where was that 6 million spent if it wasn't spent on ERA?
It was spent on operations that should have been that under normal circumstances would have been reimbursed in a timely manner.
Meaning October, November, he would have normally received that money. That needs to be spelled out and spoken to.
I'm gonna say, you know, the drawdowns, those have been lax, so that probably contributed to part of it. But I'm not gonna say that tomorrow unless specifically asked. But it went to cover other operating expenses or grant expenses while we waited for reimbursement from those specific grants.
And that's not how we should have been operating. That's my point. I don't want anything to come up
Yes.
later in
Yes.
with HCD, cause I'm, you know,
Yes.
I'm tired of HCD stuff, you know what I'm saying? We're not gonna be
Yes.
playing. If we
Yes.
need to fix it and Hawk can fix it, let them fix it. But I can't, the financials and what they're saying is the auditing and the review, this just doesn't help it.
No.
And so I don't want them saying 3 months later something else happened and pray to God it doesn't halt. But if it does, I don't want, you know, Tim, you putting yourself up there saying, well, I knew that.
It should be, at this point where we're at with HCD, it should be able to cash flow itself under normal operations. Because you spend the initial money, you get reimbursed, and you just recycle that.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a hiccup in the being reimbursed, yeah, I can see where that could happen. However, HCD has been in the past a little lax about getting their draws done on a timely basis. That's my only hesitation. So, under normal circumstances, yeah, it should have been that's how the operations work. You get the initial amount, and after that, you just draw down to replenish that.
So let me back up to the 6 million that you couldn't spend between March and December. Is there a particular reason why you couldn't do that operationally?
The program ran out. I mean, so we exhausted. So we're giving, off the top of my head, we're giving $500,000 million tranches to United Way.
Okay.
They had a group of people.
Okay.
And then we had a group of people that we get from the courts twice a week.
Yeah.
So we exhausted, we helped as many families as we could possibly help. The time frame just ran out. The deadline of helping families ended at December 31st of 22.
And then the result of that was a $6 million surplus.
You just hold it.
Okay.
You hold it until Treasury asks for it back.
But well, I guess what I'm asking from an operational standpoint, you continue to operate until the deadline where you just couldn't operate any longer.
That's correct. Most
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what evidence do you have to show that you operated up until December 31st of 2022? Is that correct? Or what was the deadline?
December 22. Yeah, we can.
What evidence do you have to show that?
I mean, where we saw reimbursements, where we've paid directly to the families who've come through the courts.
Okay.
And how we reimbursed them working with United Way.
United Way.
Those were the only two partners that we had for emergency rental assistance program.
Okay. And then United Way, they continue to operate with you all until December 31st. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And they started before. Of course, they went through commission approval. Then went through commission, asked for a partner with United Way to work with them as the lead agency, and then of course the work.
So what you're gonna have to deal with tomorrow is gonna be the optics of it. They see 6 million and they think, oh, we didn't spend it. But what you're gonna have to strongly communicate with them is that, hey, look, the initial obligation, we spent all of that. What we didn't spend was the additional surplus from the state that we took on as a way to try to help others. But in doing so, we operated until the very last day of which we could have operated. So you're gonna have to strongly communicate that and let them know that you were not lacking in terms of not spending the original money. It's just that you had so much surplus, you just couldn't spend it all by the deadline. You're gonna have to communicate that. They need to walk away knowing that you actually went above and beyond what you were expected to do originally.
The thing that they're gonna miss is why wasn't it sent back when we didn't spend it?
Because we couldn't until they requested it.
So why wasn't it still in the account? Like the question I asked, why wasn't it in the account? I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Mr. Jackson playing a whole nother game. My thing is,
I'm not playing the
I'm
game.
just saying, I don't, I
No.
wanna know why we where we are. Why wasn't the money sent back or still in the account? Cause I'm gonna be, this is what the commission gonna ask.
No, what I'm trying to do is, because this is nuance, you gotta break it down to different aspects. He handled the first, we talked about the first issue, that's component A. It's operating up until the deadline. Component B would be, as we talked about before, why was the money not there in the account as of December 31st? He just mentioned, normally, they get that money October, November. You're gonna have to speak on that. That is something that normally happens, but yet it was an unexpected delay, and that's why you didn't have the money in the funds to address that issue. That's component B. Are we on the same page?
I'm not.
I just spoke about what you just said.
No, I'm not on the same page. I'm just missing something.
You just asked the question, why wasn't the money there in December to pay the money back? That's what I'm
The money
speaking
was
to.
there. The money would have been there if they wouldn't have spent it on other things. Am I missing what you saying, or you missing what I'm saying?
We're talking the same thing. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. You asked the question, why wasn't the money, all of the money there to pay back as of December? That's correct. That's what you just asked a moment
Why
ago.
wasn't the 6.5 million there? That's
So
right.
he just said about 10 minutes ago that typically with their routine drawdowns, that money would have been there in October, November, had there not been a delay at the federal level to help to put money in their
But the money
accounts.
should have never been out the account. That's what my point is.
But that's how he operates. It's like a revolving cash flow cycle. Go ahead.
We're in a no-win situation on this one, because if Hawthorne stopped operations because he didn't have the current year's operating money, we're gonna crucify you because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And we've never been in this situation before where we have this now. Hindsight's 2020. Should you have stopped operations? Probably, and just said, I don't have my current grants, talk to Ossoff and whoever to get the money flowing, as opposed to just using the cash, the resources he had on hand to keep the operations up. 2020, shouldn't have done that.
2022.
I mean, in hindsight, he should have just said, I don't have the money to operate this year until I get my federal funds
For which year?
for the current year,
2025?
2025.
So why didn't we have, what is that? I missed
So,
something.
okay, in your, his bank account, December 31st, 2024, should have had at least $6.3 million in it. Okay? It's kind of like, it's the same concept of consolidated cash that we use, is if this fund is a little short this month, the other funds loan it the money until that fund gets caught up, and then it repays that. Basically, we loan it to ourselves. In this case, Hawthorne used the $6.3 million to fund his operations until he got federal dollars, the 2024 federal allocation. In hindsight, shouldn't have done that. But the alternative to that would have been, I can't operate because I don't have any federal dollars, because the federal government is withholding my funding. Is that correct, Hawthorne? Again, hindsight is 2020. Should have said stop. We gotta stop.
I don't know if he could have gone to the governing body and said, I need to halt operations.
Exactly. Now, you look at this, and again, this goes back to the original theory of, okay, these are normal operating revenues, operating funds. So after the initial funding from the government to get you going, from the local government getting you going a bazillion years ago, that revolving fund should have been enough to keep you going.
What, and don't take this the wrong way. The one thing I will say that you probably could have done differently was, when you didn't receive that money come October and November, you should have communicated that to the parties that bid that says, I think I may have a hiccup in terms of my cash flow for the department. I think that is something, in hindsight, you probably could have done late November, early December. You understand what I'm saying?
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, I think one of my biggest weaknesses
Mhm.
is I'm definitely transparent, but I try to fix it until I just can't fix it anymore. And I say that because we had Helene and everything going on.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna bring it in when we already got Helene. So I'm not making an excuse.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in hindsight,
The biggest piece for me, I think, is just the management of, if we needed 6.3 and we had 6.5, we ain't got but 200,000 in the bank. That's the mindset. That's the mindset. That was the mindset with the team. That was the mindset with the staff. That was the mindset. Operate as if the 6.3 ain't even there. That was the mindset. To be honest with you. I can't go all the way around. I just gotta go to and just be honest. That's just, and whatever happens to me, it happens to me.
Oh yeah, nobody's saying not be honest.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't wanna be trying to, I just wanna.
Well, here's the thing now. What I'm trying to do is give you the best advice I would give you if I were in your shoes. Context is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So component A gives them the context for 2022.
Yes.
That you actually spent what you were obligated to do. Mr. Dahmer asked for the surplus, and you operated up until that time. So which actually you went above and beyond. They need to know that context. Component B, your cash flow issue. Again, now you need to be honest and say, in hindsight, you probably could have communicated that to the powers that be, that there was delay in federal funding. Looking back, that's something you would have done differently. But there was a delay at the federal level. Did they give you any indication as to why there was a delay? Okay. Again, that's something.
I mean,
Yeah, you're gonna have to be transparent about that because somebody's gonna ask you, well, what was the cause of delay, and you're gonna be very, very transparent about that. Okay. Component C, 2025 operations. You have a mechanism in place to address the cash flow issue. Are you expecting you say you received some funds this month? Is that correct?
yes, sir. Yeah. To date, we have 5.5 in the bank right now.
Okay, you have 5.5, and now you have a plan to pay that back.
Yes.
What I am not comfortable with though is, I don't know, to me that seems like a very low balance to operate on.
It does, but I think, okay, so to that point,
Okay.
if you go over to the right,
Mm-hmm.
if you come all the way over where it says 195, and it says right here,
Mm-hmm.
so that's just 195 that we got from the first quarter for our lead program. So you're looking at additional 180 times 3 for the remaining quarters.
Okay.
Plus your 600,000 that you see for your home sales.
Uh-huh.
That's just across 4 homes.
So let me ask you this.
We have additional 5 homes that's for sale. But I didn't count those. I was trying to stay conservative.
Is that going to cause us any problems by using program income to repay this? Because we're not gonna have the 600,000 to spend someplace else.
No, sir. Because you have funding in your ELOC's federal account. It just has to be unlocked against expenses.
Okay.
So it would be where, once again, if I'm building a house for 200,000, then I would have to sign an agreement with a contractor. And then once he does the roofing and he gives me an invoice for 20,000, I would have to take that and put it into the HUD system. And then I couldn't cut a check until the HUD system gives me the 20,000.
Okay.
It's just gonna delay how I reimburse.
Okay.
Cause I don't have the money in my account.
Okay.
So instead of it being a week, it might be 2 weeks.
Okay.
Typically speaking, what is the typical balance in this fund at any given time?
Pre-COVID, probably $1 million or so, if that.
Okay, so when I see that 329,000, is that too far off from what you normally would have in that account?
That's a little bit low.
I think that's a little bit low.
And, I mean, that was pre-COVID, I don't recall off the top of my head, but.
Okay, post-COVID, what was it? Is it normal?
Well, we've had this $6 million sitting in there floating, so it's been in $6 million.
But most of that was his ERA funds.
Right.
Right. But let's push that out the way. Let's say if he pays all that back tomorrow, moving forward, what would be the typical balance in there?
500 to 750,000.
Okay, so he's probably off about maybe $200,000-$300,000, correct? Okay, all right. So you're gonna have to give them a lot of context tomorrow on a lot of different issues. Okay. Like when they see that balance there, you're gonna have to tell them typically you got about $500,000 to $700,000 left in that account on any given particular day. You're gonna have to give them that context. Okay.
Go back and look at your 2019 balances, because that's what it should normally be.
All right, I can do that.
So all I need is the reconciliation of the 6.5 million, and Tim gonna get us a breakdown of the grants.
The ERA.
Oh, I thought you said you wanted to look over this with Nancy. This is you, okay.
Yeah, no,
But
I mean, that's,
it needs to be clean. That's a lot of information on there. It needs to be clean.
I mean, I think it's just the top portion of it, not the
Okay.
detail down below, and I'll send that to you.
Okay. All right.
So I'm giving you the expenditures of.
What made the 6.5? What did we spend it on? If we didn't spend it on the rental assistance, what did we spend it on? And if Tim, you're gonna speak for it, I want you to document what y'all spent.
Well, we did,
on.
I mean, it's,
Cause I'm telling
we used
y'all,
it for operational expenses until we got reimbursed, so
It's for your normal operations.
that's what
Pay
the
back
author's gonna
contracts,
have
to pay
to,
back
He's gonna give them
nonprofits.
context.
It's,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the normal flow of, like I said, paying our contracts, paying our nonprofits, paying our.
That
that's
we're
what I
just
need to
waiting
see.
for
That's exactly
reimbursement.
what I need to see in the amount when it adds up to 6.5.
That's, it'd be better coming from your,
Yeah,
um,
so I'm just giving it for the year, or,
Whatever that 6.5 million, whatever we need.
I would look at it from, when do you normally get your funding is October? Probably go back to June, July, and
Cause they're gonna ask, what did that 6.5
where did that money go, and when are we
We don't
getting it?
have that.
I think you're gonna have to focus on that and say, this will all be reimbursed by, the reimbursement was delayed because of delays at the federal level.
Right. Right. They're gonna have to give them that context.
okay.
Did you get any type of delay notification from the feds at all? They just didn't.
It's the whole process was thrown. The whole process was thrown off. The whole process was delayed. When you submit, the whole process was delayed.
Okay.
Then money got frozen. Then Congress didn't appropriate.
Okay.
Same thing is going on like for 25. Like right now, like
All right.
typically we would get a letter April, May.
Okay.
I can't tell you when that letter would be.
Okay. But ultimately you're gonna have to walk away letting them know that the one hiccup that you did make was you didn't notify the parties that be that there was a delay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're gonna have to be very,
Yes.
take accountability for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I'm good. I mean, Mr. Jackson, you gotta be in there tomorrow.
I think
Y'all good? What I don't want, and I'm gonna tell y'all how I am. No one at this table except Hawthorne tell me anything different about this whole process as if it was the issue. That's what I'm saying. If y'all saying everything is good, we gonna pay back, this is that, I'm just listening. Because I don't skirt around things. If you're gonna say we're gonna do this is what's happening, that's what we say.
There's going to be ramifications.
That's what I'm saying. Don't come late. I don't wanna hear it later.
Say-
That's what I'm
say-
saying.
say it again.
Now you see what I
There's going to be
mean?
ramifications on
I
that.
had a discussion.
What
This ain't how they-
ramifications?
We will
discussion
have a
was.
finding.
Based on the 2024 accounting period.
Yes, we will have a finding.
Okay. All right, that needs to be communicated.
Operationally, I don't know if HUD's gonna look at you at all and have any criteria for that, but it will be
I mean, I think from a HUD standpoint, you repay money if you've done something that was not compliant or the activity was not eligible.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not reimbursed for anything that's not eligible. It's just the fact that, so that's not what we're doing. I mean, every activity that we're reimbursing, because HUD doesn't even unlock the system if you gotta put a code in, the eligibility code, and the support documentation. And if it's not eligible, then it won't even allow you to get the funding.
So let me say this, I don't want anybody leaving this meeting thinking I'm trying to put anybody on the spot. But when I say whatever I say, I'm saying it, that's it. I don't want us, coming back later saying Hawthorne did, my thing is put it out here now. If it's something Hawthorne needs to change, or we feel it's gonna be an issue, say it. I don't like later discussions. Do y'all see what I mean?
Yep.
I don't like that, because Hawthorne knows just how I feel about it. I've said it. I probably said it too many times. But this is the only way we're gonna move forward. If we say what we say and mean what we say and keep on how we're gonna fix it, and we work on it, fix it and be done.
Okay.
But don't say it later, oh, he did, I don't hear that.
So that question to me would be directed towards you. How can he operate moving forward to avoid these issues?
Draw down on a timely basis. Do not, make sure, you're gonna have to go back to we will reimburse based on our draws, not reimburse based on our cash in the bank. I think for a compliance side, that's when we come back and say we want to redo this gap analysis, because to make sure, to see if what has been said in here is happening. So we'll redo that to make sure that is compliant. But I think the biggest thing is going to be, instead of paying as we have cash, is going to be more, we will reimburse the department or the contractors after we get the money drawn down.
Okay, so let me throw a hiccup in that. Now, these contractors, they have a very thin profit margin.
Yep.
So if you start talking about paying them based on what you draw down the drawdown schedule, that's gonna cut a lot of developers
We
and
give them a
contractors.
guaranteed profit. In all these contracts, there's a guaranteed profit.
I'm just trying to throw out the scenarios.
I understand.
Okay,
That's my response, is we give them a guaranteed profit. We have been the bank for these contractors for a very long time. We can't do that anymore.
but what I'm asking you, Director, what would be the fallout of changing that method? Do you anticipate any outcry from the
I think the sweet
contract?
spot would be, so typically you pay every week.
Right.
So the sweet spot with me would be to only add a week as opposed to adding a month.
Okay, because
If I can still get it done, contractor brings me a request for a roof for $15,000 today. Typically, I submit it. We work, we send a request to Tim by Wednesday, contractor gets a check by Friday. Okay?
Okay.
So hopefully I can take it, we take it, now we're gonna take the same invoice from the contractor, we put it into our HUD system, and then HUD will release the money. So once they release the money into the account, now I'm able to ask Tim to cut a check. So hopefully that's only able, if we can get it, we hadn't done that, that's old fashioned with no different.
It was old fashioned, you're right.
That was the smaller counties, because the smaller counties didn't have money. They didn't have anybody to front them the money.
So for a compliance standpoint, we're gonna ask that we get copies of the drawdown request attached to the check requests.
So we gotta go back and look at this process, cause it's not one that we've done in forever.
Yeah,
But if I can get it to answer your question, it may not be too much of a rub if I'm telling the contractors every 14 days. It starts getting into an issue, and you're right, they make a profit. That's why we do it with them. We tell them thank you for doing the project. I mean, we want everybody to eat and to live. We don't have contractors and subcontractors on staff for a reason. We want to be sure that they're able to impact and make a difference. But I start getting into an issue when it's 3 weeks to a month.
exactly.
then they gonna start barking and complaining.
They're gonna go to the commissioners and Ms. Allen.
So if I can keep it at 2 weeks or 10 days,
Okay,
10 business days,
okay.
I think I'll be okay.
Are you comfortable saying that to the commissioners tomorrow?
As I just indicated, I need to work with Tim on that process.
Because like to Ms. Allen's point, we gotta go in there tomorrow, make it seem like we have owned whatever issues that are out there, that we have mastered what we need to do moving forward.
Okay, so let's talk ahead of that time.
Okay.
Let me go back, Tim, I can give you a call. Let me go back and see what that process looks like internally. And once I get a pay request and I put it into the HUD system, how quickly does that reimbursement come?
Okay.
Okay, and then that way I can let Tim know.
Okay. All right.
I'm good. I just want us to all be transparent.
We'll all,
'cause I
we'll all,
don't-
we'll all be there tomorrow, right? Because we all have different points of context we have to
Yes.
provide the commissioners.
Yeah.
And we have to, from administrative standpoint, we gotta say, we've listened to both sides and we agree with what the process will look like moving forward. I gotta feel comfortable before I say I concur with what the two of you are talking about.
I mean, if we've got we need to have the cash in our bank account before we release it to the contractors. That's where we're going from.
The reimbursement in the account, yeah,
Yes.
the drawdown.
The drawdown.
Okay.
We have to have the drawdown in hand before we can turn around and pay the contractor.
And what I'm saying is, I'm going to figure out, because typically once I get an invoice from a contractor,
Mhm.
I'm going to figure out with my staff, once we take that and put it in the system, how quickly do I get the money back from HUD?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
That's what I need.
Everybody's comfortable now?
Comfortable. We gotta go in there tomorrow, give context and own whatever hiccups we have, we gotta own them.
I will own it, so.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And you know that's gonna bring back, I want you to be prepared, Hawthorne, they'll probably bring back the first gap analysis.
Yep.
So just make sure you be able to respond to it.
And as long as we're going with the reimbursement basis, I guess I would go with Hawthorne and let's just pay it off as much as we can upfront and get it done with, be done with it.
Okay.
And the reason-
I'm sorry, so how is that gonna affect the operation in 2025 though?
If we can delay this, he's got,
So I'm trying to get us out of the supporting HCD general fund, cause
that's a whole nother,
I know.
that's a, he pays off the 75%, gives him $635,000. The switch in how contractors get paid has to happen immediately. So from now going forward, instead of paying when we receive it, it's gonna be, we have to draw it down, then you get reimbursed. Going forward with that, we should be fine.
So, I'm gonna change the process.
We're gonna change the process,
The vendor payment process.
yes.
Yes.
If they don't like that, if they want something else,
Well, the commissioners may not be aware of it. If we've changed this vendor payment process and they start getting calls about not getting payments, that's gonna draw you in some more hot water.
So we'll say it tomorrow.
Okay.
But do we also do an agenda items information?
Agenda item information for what?
To ask them.
Well, I'm
To
just
tell
saying,
them
say,
that
hey,
they-
we're moving forward.
But you're doing it for compliance, so I don't think, even
I
if
wouldn't put an agenda item on the floor.
even if the vendors do come back with a problem, you're doing it for compliance, that's what I tell the governor about. You're doing it for compliance.
And they've
Okay.
been spoiled for
You don't
years.
wanna.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, as
Yeah,
long as
you're
long as
right,
we
but that's what they're
communicate,
gonna say.
be
They're gonna come
transparent,
back
yeah,
fighting about, then you get paid.
yeah. Okay. And the only reason why I made that 50% reimbursement payment mark, because I wasn't aware, one, that's not too far off your typical, account balance.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's why I put this
That's
together.
why, okay, I thought that was pretty low, but now you give me context, well, I'm forewarned. Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, Hawthorne, we gotta get through this one, we gotta get through something hurry,
Yeah, man.
Telling you.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
You're welcome. Again, I don't want you to think I'm trying to put you on the hammer. You know, I would never do that, but I just wanna make sure
We
none
do.
of us on the hammer, all of us on the hammer. That's my thing, and we gotta let it all be
Yeah.
transparent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, so we got a meeting at 4,
Before,
Yes.
about 8 minutes.
Hog, you might wanna take that, if I was you, I'd probably take that, what is it, something off the agenda tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you have on the agenda, I might take off, just in case.
Well, I'm
Stuck
glad,
it.
Miss Allen, you got a second? But
Uh-huh.
yeah, but she brings up a good point. And that agenda item, is there anything that we should?
So that's
They'll
your,
be asking questions about that.
that's your tax credit
Project,
project.
okay.
And that money, you're not forwarding that money. That money is just in the account. So you wouldn't even need that money. If it's approved, if the tax credit project is approved, you'll find it in October, November if it's approved.
Okay,
And if it's approved, you wouldn't start construction until a year from now.
okay.
Now, to
I
that
don't know.
point,
Hawk, I think you might want to delay that until the next committee meeting.
I can.
I don't know, now you can do it. if
No,
you
no, no,
want.
no, no, no,
But-
applications due in May. Yeah,
Oh, no.
let me pull it a cycle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let me delay it up.
Yeah.
Cycle. Pull it, and you need to pull it ahead of time, tell Ms. Bonner, so when we,
Yep.
Hawthorne coming to tell you to do, you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
You just do it smooth tomorrow, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
$1 million, and then that's gonna be.
Yes, yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, because it's what, 900 some thousand?
Right.
No, I'm putting that in this.
Right under.
What else we got on there? Hawthorne? You don't have to come to the director meeting. What else do you have? You just take
Hey,
off,
really?
take up the
Hey,
hall.
mine's just a renewal, I'm just an insurance renewal.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know, Hawthorne might not want to say it.
That's
Anything else you had?
Oh, I got that.
That's it, that's it.
We'll just say defer it to the next committee cycle.
Next committee cycle.
So she, Ms. Bond automatically.
But let's get those reports tonight though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you and Tim agree that the 6.5 was whatever cost, just add them 6.5, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cause they're gonna ask you that, that's gonna be the main question. I wouldn't give it to them in hand, but I'll at least have it so I can identify and read this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They're gonna ask that question.
I was talking about the ERA line.
Yeah,
items.
I'll have,
It's just used to fund operations until we got our normal reimbursement from
Okay.
the feds.
All right.
It's just-
All right. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Had to cancel some other meetings, did we, Mr. Jackson?
Yeah.
my last time.
Oh, this is our last meeting.
My last one. I love you, but it's my last one.
All right,
Don't wanna do that
sir.
again.
Appreciate you.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay.
Don't be over there doing.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Getting ready to get to the next meeting.